Hey everybody, this is Daniel here with Propelio, and on today's show we're going to be discussing water lead lists. We released a video about a year and a half ago and we had so many questions coming back from that. I wanted to do an update today on exactly how I was sourcing the water lead lists and how I think it can help you in your town creating vacant properties for you to market to that other people are not finding. On today's show, look forward to you right after this break.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Life in Air.
All right, everybody. So I did a video about a year and a half ago, just flat out discussing everything I did on the water lead lists. And I'm seeing a lot of comments coming back of people saying, I was unable to do this, I was unable to get this, I'm getting told no here, and there. What I need to make sure I make very clear and why I'm making this video today is to give you some insight as to how much effort it took for me to pull this off in Texas. Whenever I first discovered this, I spent anywhere between 4 to 6 months honestly just constantly trying to make efforts to improve my process for doing this before it finally turned out that I was able to successfully pull this off. So when I'm seeing people in other states and they're saying, hey, you can't do this, or I can't do this, I cannot speak on your behalf, but I have had people that I've told in let's say Tennessee is a very, very good one. As an example, I was like, hey, this is how you do it. And I had somebody in Tennessee come back to me like, oh, you can't do it, I got denied. And I can't argue and say yes or no, you're right or wrong. But then whenever a month later, I have somebody else in Tennessee come back to me like, man, it worked. I had to do this and I had to do that. Well, that tells me that, the probability of this being able to work in most states is very high, because Tennessee is not the only state that I've heard this back from. I've heard this back from probably at least a half a dozen people, which is like 6 out of 50 states. So that's not, like great data just yet. But I know for a fact it works in Texas, and yet I still have people come back to me in Texas saying this doesn't work. That tells me that I did not teach you well enough. So that is what I'm going to do here today. Let's talk about this and let me try and break down these water leads for you. The reason I'm targeting the water leads is because if a house has the water shut off, I can only see 4 reasons that I can really see that would have that reason. I can only see about 4 reasons why the water would be shut off. They couldn't afford to pay the bill. That is a good lead for you as a real estate investor. Number 2, they moved. And if they're moving and they shut off the water, now I know that that property is vacant right at about the exact time that it happened. So it's really fresh data. So that's 2. Number 3, a pipe burst in the house and the people didn't know how to turn it off, so they called the water department. So there's 3 reasons right there. And number 4, all 3 of those first 3 reasons are damn good reasons for me. Burst pipe, can't afford the bill, or bailed on the house and just left it vacant. Number 4 is not a good thing for us. Number 4 is they've just sold the house and they're transferring utilities. If they've sold the house, I can't buy it. Bad lead. But I'll explain to you more as we get to the end on how I clean that list up so that way you're not dealing with retail sales. But that's why I want these lead lists. Now I need to help you figure out how to get them. Now, for those that have seen the first video, I'm not going to go into the full in-depth of how I figured out about this, but what I am going to tell you is I got a broad overview from some people essentially saying that it could be done, but no one taught me how to do it. So from there, I had to go out and figure this out on my own. Well, what are these steps for me to figure this out on my own? Because that's what I'm going to have to do for you today in today's class. You are in all over the United States. You're in Illinois, you're in California, you're in New York, you're in Florida. You're in these other metropolitan areas and you're trying to do what I've done, but I haven't shown you how I did what I did. So I'm gonna come back over here to my computer real quick. And for those that have been around me long enough, whenever people ask me questions that I feel can be solved fairly easily, my answer is gonna be Google it, because I don't know the answer to how you're gonna do it in Florida, California, New York, and Illinois. All I can tell you is how I did it. And what I did, I Googled it. I didn't have anybody to ask. So what I'm gonna look here is I'm just gonna say open records requests Texas, because I'm a Texas investor, okay? So right there, the very first thing that pops up is how to request public information from the Texas Attorney General. I did not pre-do this. I did not study this last night to come in here and try and show this to you. I was just going to do this live because this is exactly how I was able to accomplish what I accomplished back a few years ago. Okay, so the very first thing I pop open is how to request public information how to request public information from the Texas Attorney General. If I click on that, let's see what this gives me some. Oh, look at this right over here on the right-hand side. Public Information Act Handbook. This is exactly how I learned what I did. And I have people from Texas, so I'm starting with Texas because that's where I'm an investor. That's where I've always done all my business. I'm going to download this handbook real quick. This is 324 pages. I'm going to repeat, 324 pages about open records requests that the Texas Attorney General had drafted and released. Now, one of the things that I found out about this, because everybody that comes to me and they're like, hey, you know, you can't do this in Texas. And I'm like, bullshit. I know you can do it. I know for a fact you can do it. There's 324 pages there. I read 324 pages of a state-issued, boring as hell document. Why? Because I understood that if I figured out how to make these requests work, that I would receive some of the freshest lists possible, and that is how I wanted to create my edge as a real estate investor. If you are new to this real estate investing business and you're not understanding these niche lists, then yes, grab some of these more predominant lists and get out there and try and compete with some of the big boys. Great. But if you are on limited budget, you're on limited resources, and you are needing to knock out some fat deals, you're gonna need to spend a lot of time on data. And I mean a massive amount of time on data. So many people get into this business assuming that they are real estate investors. But what I'm gonna have to tell you right now is you're a marketer, and then you are a real estate investor, because regardless of how much you understand about real estate investing, you will never be able to apply that knowledge unless you implement some marketing skills. Marketing creates the opportunity to implement your trade. Your trade is a real estate investor. Let's learn marketing. We're going to drill in on data. This right here is 324 pages that I am obviously not going to be able to read for you, but if I start scrolling through this is the handbook for 2018, and I start scrolling through this, there is going to be a massive amount of information included in this document. But here's the table of contents right there. There is a lot of data. There is a lot of data available in this document. So if you're in Texas and you've been struggling to accomplish this, I would strongly recommend you start with this. Okay, what about everybody that's not in Texas? So I'm going to break down two laws that I'm not going to say very familiar with, but I'm familiar enough with that I feel confident speaking about it. You're going to have what's called FOIA, which is your Freedom of Information Act. That is a federal statute, law, one of those fancy words that I'm not educated enough to understand. FOIA covers the nation. That covers government, like the federal government level requests. But each and every individual state, and I'm going to say this with a level of certainty and confidence, although I am not 100% on that, every state of the 50 states is going to have some form of open records request act. In Texas, it's called the Public Information Act. Public Information Act. Now, the Public Information Act is not the same as FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act. Two totally different laws, two totally different things. So what I need you to do if you're in a different state like Illinois, you're in Kansas, you're in Maine, I don't care where you're at, you're going to need to figure out what the law is in your state. So I'd start by doing an open records request and then add in, like I did just over here on Google, come back over to Google, open records requests. Let's go ahead and just type in Illinois. All right. Access to public records in Illinois, Digital Media Law Project. Okay, so that is not a state-guided website, but there's some stuff I might be able to look at there. Illinois sample FOIA request, National Freedom of Information Act. I am not necessarily looking for the FOIA. You may or may not. See, I cannot give you direct answers on this because I am not going to spend my time researching 49 other states to do your job for you. If you're an entrepreneur and you start hitting roadblocks, you need to learn how to go over, under, or through and not let it stop you, because if you're constantly hitting roadblocks and you're giving up that easy, you should not really consider yourself an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs learn how to take adversity and just persevere and drive straight through it. So if you are having trouble figuring this out in your state, buckle down, go 10 times deeper and start studying the law. And if that is outside of your direct skills, go ahead, bust out a wholesale or two. Collect a little bit of that capital that you're going to need, reinvest that capital into sitting down with an open records request attorney. And I'm not talking about just your plain Jane uncle, cousin, brother, sister that has a law degree, that has a general practitioner. Find somebody within the state that is specifically known for specializing in open records requests. Find that attorney and then book a consultation with them and sit down and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Can you help me pull this through? It might cost you a couple $1,000s to have that attorney get you through the end, and you may or may not get the answer that you like. But all I can tell you is if you're giving up that easy, just don't even worry about watching the rest of this video, because it took me 4 to 6 months and reading 324 pages of law to get this pulled off. So if I come through here, I'm just going to start scanning in. Got a lot of stuff here, but this is right here. Boom. So Freedom of Information Act, Illinois.gov. I like the fact that that says .gov, because .gov is going to go straight to the source. Now, all these other people that are out here, you know, this nfoic.org/Illinois, those make good resources for people that have interpreted the law for me. But at first, I'm going to want to read the law. I know that sounds boring as all hell, but you can ask my wife. There has been plenty of times when I was first getting started in this business, I would stay up all night long reading the law. It sucks. It's boring. It's difficult to read. There's cliff notes out the ass. But the better you become at educating yourself on what you are trying to do, the better you're going to be able to become, but the better you're going to be able to overcome these adversities when you're sending requests into these cities and the cities are saying, no, I'm not going to do it because of X. I'm not going to do it because of Y. Well, if I know what the law is and they try and say I'm not going to do it because of X, I can respond back and I'll be like, actually, you will do it. And I'm going to ignore X because you're supposed to ignore X as well, because the law clearly states that you have X, Y, and Z that you're supposed to do. And you're just not doing it because you don't want to, which does not work out because the law says you have to. And I expect this to be back to me in the next 10 days. I had to get to that level before this really started working on any mass scale for me. I'm going to pop back over here and I'm going to show you real quick what the back-end documentation looked like on this system. This is from 2015. You can see this right up here in my header for my navigator. 2015 is when I really started buckling down on this. But I come through here, Addison, Aledo, Allen, Alma, Alvarado, Alvord, Anna, Argyle, Arlington, Aubrey, Azle. If you live in DFW, that right there is like 10 cities that start with A, of which 9 you've probably never even heard of. I was pulling around 160 to 170 cities within DFW every single month. Every single month, I'd pull 160, 170 cities. That is the scale to which I got this, and that is what made 2015 a very good year for me, because I found a niche list, I doubled down on that, and I went deep. I went very deep on this. Look at this. If I scroll through this, every single one of these cities were trained by me to start giving me these water lead lists. And why I say trained by me is when I first started, okay, Fort Worth, Arlington, Grand Prairie, Dallas, some of the larger cities, they had had this happen to them before and they understood what was going on. But I'll tell you what, when I started calling up Lowry Crossing, I still don't know where Lowry Crossing is. I had a virtual assistant build this out for me. Lucas, Texas, I'm sorry, Lucas, I don't know where you're at. I had no clue where any of these were, and whenever I called them up and I started saying, hey, I've got an open records request, I need a list of all residential properties that have had the water shut off in the last 30 days and not turned back on, and I'm allowing you to redact anything under 182.052 that is considered confidential information, but I will require a copy of the address of the property. Because in Texas, what I found is besides the Public Information Act, I also had the Texas Utilities Code. Well, in the Texas Utilities Code, you had the right to keep confidential information private from the public, because this was a public entity that I was doing business with, but that public entity has access to my billing information, they have access to my payment information, they have access to all of these things that I do not want to be made public. So therefore, the Texas Utilities Code allows for that information to remain confidential and does not fall underneath the Public Information Act. But there was a loophole, and it was that loophole that I had to find, and it was that exact phrase: you may redact all confidential information covered under the Texas Utilities Code 182.052, and that is what allowed me to start pulling this off. Now, I can promise you, when we called Lucas, Texas up and I said, hey, Lucas, Texas, I want a list of all of the water that's been shut off in the last 30 days, and I'm gonna allow you to do X, Y, and Z. Do you think they immediately responded back and was like, oh yeah, okay, here, take it? No, they had to be taught what this was, how this was working, and I had to really buckle down. And some of them, like I had Princeton, Texas, flat out refuse to give it to me. I had, Seagoville? I had Seagoville, Texas, completely flat out refuse to give it to me. Well, remember that 324-page document that I showed you about 5 minutes ago? That 324-page document that I showed you about 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, gave me the ammo to fire back at Seagoville and the ammo to fire back at Princeton. Because what I now knew was, hey, the Public Information Act says you have 10 business days to respond to me and either give me the information that I requested, or B, deny my request. But if you deny my request, you must also send a letter to me, a formal letter to me, as well as a formal letter to the Texas Attorney General's office. And if they send it to me and the Texas Attorney General, they must write in there exactly why the claim was denied. Okay? I forced Princeton to do this. Princeton sends the letter to me. They also send it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General responds to both parties and explains exactly what's going on. I got a five-page letter back from the Texas Attorney General, and the first 4 pages looked horrible. The first 4 pages essentially said, deny him, deny him, deny him, deny him, deny him. And literally, like the very last paragraph of the 5th page said something along the lines of, you were allowed to deny all of those other things, but you must still provide the address per law, and you have X amount of days to get it done. It was from that point moving forward that I was able to yet again move forward with the rest of these 160 to 170 cities that were within a 75-mile radius of Dallas and start approaching them and say, hey, this is what I want, this is how it needs to come to me, and this is why I'm allowed to do this. And I would just train them up front, and with all of the knowledge that I presented up front, it made it very difficult for them to argue with me about how this was supposed to work. So if everybody's getting this so far, I'm going to go ahead and move forward because I really needed to stress. This was not just like oh wow, I'm going to watch this video, and while I'm watching this video, I'm going to do this, and then 45 minutes later come back and respond, oh, that didn't work. I cannot promise you it'll work in your state, but I will promise that your state has an open records request of some form. I feel very confident in my ability to state that. But if you have not sat down and read through the law yourself, if you have not brought an attorney on board with you to help you out with this, if you have not done those 2 things, then I cannot guarantee that your state is not or is not able to do this, because I've trained enough people on this, and I've trained enough people to see that I can tell 2 people in the state how to do this. One will come back and say it's not possible. The other one will come back and be like, dude, man, I just closed my first deal because of you. And I've got messages in my inbox just like that. You have no clue the amount of joy I get whenever I open up my inbox and I see messages from people that I've never met in my life, that I do not know, from a stranger walking down the street, and they send me a message and say, I just knocked down my first deal because of something you gave me. The water lead lists, I got a ton of people that came back to me and said, I just knocked down a deal. I just knocked down my first deal. I just knocked down the biggest deal I've ever done. And it came from this water lead list. So if you want to really grind and double down and get into this business and you're struggling, see if you can figure this out. It might be worth the time. It took me months. It took me months. I promise you, I didn't want to read all 324 pages, but I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to show you a little bit more about the information and systems I structured around the water lead lists to automate this, because I can promise you, it was a month's worth of a person's time just to do this. And if you know anything about business, you need to learn, automate, systematize, and continue scaling your business, because if you're always working in it, you're not working on it. I know it's cliche, but you have to be always building that business. And if you're always trying to do the little work, you're not building your business. Talk to you right after we come back from this short break.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
All right, coming back from break, I want to give myself a few seconds to say hi to my wife. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for supporting me. Say hi to my lovely daughters, Tyla and Zyla. Love you both. Thank you for understanding when Daddy's got to go to work in the morning. I love each and every one of y'all. Y'all are the reason why I'm doing this. But coming back into this, and this is for everybody that's watching right now, that's taking the time out of their day to listen to me sit up here and run my mouth. Thank every one of y'all as well. I'm trying to help you out here. Sometimes I get a little direct. Sometimes I come across just blunt. That's who I am. For those that are around me, they understand that that's how I am. I want y'all to win. That's why I'm up here. That's why I'm trying to teach y'all the things that I'm doing. I want you to win. So let me pull through here and show you some of the things that I've got going on. Each and every one of these was where I would store the returned list that I was getting back. Let me talk about how I'd market to them. And then once I talk about how, I'm going to spend this next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about how I would market to them. And then the last 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about how I'd systematize this. Let me see. Let me run this through the back of my head real quick and make sure I've got this thought process going through. I'm going to go ahead and talk about how I'd systematize this, and then I'll talk about how I'll market to it. I'm going to spend the last 20 minutes talking about how I'd market to it. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about how I'd systematize this. So what I found here is I basically came to my own conclusion and say I'd be willing to drive 75 miles from where I'm at right now to knock a deal down. Now, there's a lot of virtual wholesalers out there that are probably laughing their ass off at me right now, but at that time, I wasn't confident enough to do virtual wholesaling. Now that I'm a little more experienced, probably so, but I've moved on. I said 75-mile radius of my hometown. I'm good with that. That was Dallas. So I went out and I went to, it was actually Wikipedia, I believe. I went to Wikipedia and I just Googled the metropolitan area of Dallas. And fortunately enough for me, Wikipedia had a list of all of the properties around, or not all the properties, but all of the cities around there. I then hired a virtual assistant at probably $3 to $4 an hour to go through Wikipedia and put all of those into an Excel spreadsheet. So let me see if I can get that popped open for you real quick. Let me see, where did I put that? Let me see if I can open it up in a new window. Not new folder, File Explorer. Pop that one open. If I come over here, Real Softworks, and then I come over to Marketing, Webinars, Propelio Marketing. I know y'all probably don't need me to talk that out loud, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop this open and I wanna see if y'all can see what I had done. Okay, so if I come back over here to my screen, we can come down here. Okay, there's a lot of information on this screen, but we've got the online requests, sheet 1. This is the sheet I'm looking for. So if you wanna learn how to systematize this, I'm not gonna say this is the method that you need to use. This was the method that I created to make it a little bit easier in my office so that way I wasn't having to do all the busy work. I hired a virtual assistant up front, and that virtual assistant went through, and as you can see here in column A, I have a list of all of these cities. That was the start. The second piece is, okay, whenever I'd file these requests, if you remember earlier, I said they were allowed to redact all information regarding X, Y, and Z. Well, what I ended up with was a list of nothing other than property addresses. If I have nothing but a property address, I'm missing some key pieces to be able to mail to it. I need to know the mailing address of the property. I also need to know the owner's name of the property. So to figure those things out, I needed to get the central appraisal district up. Well, every city I had my virtual assistants go through and research what central appraisal district went to which city. So like Carrollton. Carrollton is covered half by Dallas County, half by Denton County. That's busy work. If you don't have the ability to hire and train a virtual assistant up front, much respect, I understand. Maybe make this process a little bit smaller for yourself. Pick 5 to 10 cities in your local area and start on those. But once you've knocked down a deal or two, set some of that money beside, get your virtual assistant on board, and get them to finish out the rest of this process. So I've got all of the lists of the central appraisal districts, and then I also find out whether or not they're going to charge me for the list. Now, if I see a yes in this column, that means that they're charging me. But watch if I scroll through this, how many of them actually say yes? If you are working on a budget and you need solid lists, you're going to need to set your little ass down and spend some time researching data. That is all there is to this. I hate to oversimplify things, but if you source and create the best data that you can possibly do, you diligently market towards it, opportunities will be created. If enough opportunities are created, regardless of your experience level, eventually something's going to work out. And it's that failing forward piece that sounds so cliche, but if you fail forward consistently, you don't give up, you don't allow the world to tell you that you're going to fail, you don't allow the world to tell you that this isn't right for you, you don't allow the world to get in your way, you're going to find out that life can be a totally different world than you expected. If I keep going through here though, almost none of these, I'm seeing less than probably 10% of these, probably even less than 5% of these are actually charging for the list, okay? That's a good news for you. I also had my virtual assistant go through and bookmark the city's website, because every city that I found so far, and this is me, all the cities that I have found so far had some level of information on their website about open records requests and how to perform an open records request in their city. It is extremely important to know that, so I'd have my virtual assistant go through and document all of the public information. Like, I'll just go ahead and open this one real quick. Let me see if I open that in a new window. Boom. Let me see if I can get that to pop open. Let me see if I can just pop any one of these open. Okay, University Park, Texas. Open records request. Requests for information under the Texas Information Act. Open records request. The Texas Public Information Act, blah, 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 blah. To request information from the city of University Park, please submit requests through the city's online request system. There you go. If you wanted to learn how to file open records requests in University Park, that right there is exactly how you do it. So go to your local city and say, open records request Beaumont, open records request Marion, open records request San Francisco. And just try and see if you can figure out where that information is. That's step two. Step one is figuring out what the law is in the state. Step two is how do I submit this request to my city? If I'm looking for a water list, some people think that they're supposed to go to the water department. I have yet to find a case where that was true. It was normally either the city attorney or the city secretary is who I had to submit my requests to. So right there, that's how we do that for University Park. I'm going to pop back over here to this list. The email of whoever I'm supposed to contact, the method of contact, like this one's an online request, Arlington's an online request, Carrollton's an online request, Copper Canyon is an email, and they do not have a specific form. Some cities have their own form that they want faxed in. Other ones have their own forms that they want mailed in. It gets kind of boring whenever you have to mail in your records requests, but it happens. These are the things that you need to figure out. These are the things you need to document, because guess what? Once I've gone through and I've documented all this and I've created a simple step-by-step procedure, it's very easy for me to train somebody to come in and do this for me. Did I do all of this? No. I did the first 3, maybe 4 cities, and I kind of figured out what I wanted. Once I figured out what I wanted, I hired someone in the office and I said, hey, I need you to go through and build out the rest of this. The person I hired was about $11 an hour, okay? Once I hired them and I got them to put all this together, I then hired a virtual assistant. That virtual assistant was $3 to $4 an hour, probably closer to the $3 an hour part. And I had my assistant train the new virtual assistant on what this document was and what that virtual assistant's responsibilities would be throughout the month. What I wanted is with every 30 days, I wanted a new request filed for the previous 30 days worth of shutoffs. That's busy work. I don't want my $11 an hour in-house assistant being consumed with $3 an hour busy work that I can outsource to the Philippines. So all in all, I'm paying $14 an hour or so to have this process knocked out. But by paying that and using that abundance mindset of I can put that money out there with the understanding that that money will come back to me, I have now freed up my time. Everybody wants to get into this business, and primarily I would see those motivators being you want to buy back your life. You want the money to get the things that you want. You want the money to do the things you want. And more importantly, you want the money to create the freedom that you want. I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggling getting into this business, and they're trying to do everything themselves, and they're forgetting that key piece because they're afraid to let that money go to hire somebody to buy back their time. At the point in time I realized that buying back my time was just as important as the money, did my life start changing up a little bit, okay? What I'm gonna need you to do now though is step into this and think about that. I hired my in-house assistant, and then I hired a virtual assistant. That virtual assistant is going to be doing all of this busy work, but if I originally had my in-house assistant doing all the busy work, what are they gonna do now? Okay, so I had my in-house assistant figure all this out, train it to a VA, but now the reason I did that was because I wanted my in-house assistant to know how to do all of it so that they could properly manage my VA. But now that my virtual assistant is out there securing all these lists for it, guess what? I am now getting thousands and thousands and thousands of leads coming back into me every single month. And what my in-house assistant's job then transformed to was their responsibility was to pull the lists that were being returned to them every single day, break those down, print out my marketing, cut my marketing because I was doing postcards at the time, cut my marketing, and then stack them into, if you've never done direct mail or if you've never done direct mail at scale, you can get bulk mail permits from your local post office. I would have them sorted by zip code so that way I could get the cheapest mailing rates I possibly could. I would scan them through national change of address so that way I could get the cheapest rates that I could. I would bin them up, and then I would drop off thousands and thousands of postcards every single month to the local post office. Did I want to be responsible for all of that busy work? No. What did I need to focus on? The things that I was the best at in the business, and the things that I was best at in the business was the vision and getting contracts. I could go out to a house and I could sit down with the seller and I could walk away with the contract. But once I walked away with that contract, guess what I was not good at? I was not good at the follow-up. I would then hand that off to my office assistant, and I'd say, office assistant, here's a new contract. Submit it to title, make sure that everything's in place to get this thing closed and funded, and then boom, I'd move on to doing yet again what I was best at, vision and closing contracts. Okay, so coming back in here, you can see exactly how each and every one of these states or each and every one of these cities had their online records requests submitted. I can see the phone numbers, fax, and contact information for them. I can see the address for them as well. Okay, come back down through here. I can push through each and every single one of these. If y'all are interested in seeing a copy of all of this information that I have, I'll be glad to submit it to you here in the comments. If everybody out there watching right now, I've got close to 100 people watching right now. If I can get every one of y'all to drop a comment just saying thank you, hey, much appreciated. I appreciate you taking the time to give me the knowledge that you spent years developing, and I'm giving it to you for free right now. If I can get you to at least commit to giving me a comment here, and I can get these comments to blow up, I'll give you a copy of every single thing that I've got right here. I'll give you a copy of my Excel documents. I'll give you a copy of my postcard. I'll give you a copy of all of that for nothing other than just dropping me a comment. I see over 100 people watching right now between YouTube and Facebook. Drop those comments on there. I see those comments flowing through, and I feel like you're actually reciprocating some of this love I'm giving you. I'll give you a copy of everything I got here. All right, moving forward. Pushing through July requests. I would go through, I have my virtual assistant document everything that's been requested. So I can see here, this changes colors based upon certain things. But, you know, hey, I made the request. Yay, I got it. I made the request. I was denied. I'm doing a follow-up request. I made the request and I received the information. Once I received the information, were my email, were my postcards printed, were my postcards cut, were my postcards mailed out, and I do all of that. And that was the basics of how I systematize this. That's kind of, maybe I'm not digging in deep enough. I want to make sure that you're getting this. I want to make sure that you're understanding this. So if I have any clear-cut questions coming through that I can come back to when I'm getting off of the camera, I'll come back to them. But let me just run through that and make sure that I'm giving you everything I got. And I get to a point sometimes where I oversimplify things, and through oversimplification, I forget to tell you some of the key pieces that make this stuff work. But ultimately what I did is I did a hell of a lot of research to figure out how to get this data. And I want to go ahead and make sure that I tell you right then and there, open records requests work for far more than just water lead lists. I'm going to give you a couple of other little niche lists that you might be able to pull out of this, especially here in Texas. At the tax auctions here in Texas, all the buyers must register pre-auction. And through that registration, it's a name, contact information, etc., etc. Well, I can file open records requests and say, show me a list of everybody that filed for a tax auction, that filed to purchase at the tax auction. That means every single month I might be getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new buyers added to my list to remarket my properties to if I'm wholesaling. Let me think about that. They're going to auction. If I'm at auction, you can't use a hard money lender. Well, you can, but I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. They're going to have to pay cash at the auction. And if they're paying cash through a cashier's check or just some regular old greenback bills, guess what? These people have money to buy deals from you. So there's another little one. Open records request. We can start talking about code violations. We can start talking about possibly forcible detainer suits. We can go through there, and what else could we possibly find in there that might help you out? We might be able to figure out who all's been arrested for a third-degree felony or higher. Maybe these are possibilities. I'm not giving you yes or no answers, but expand your mind beyond the box that you've been created to stay in. Once you've created that box and you stay in it, you get in trouble. Find out how to get outside of that box. I figured out, researched the data, hired an in-house assistant to expand upon the research that I had done. I then hired a virtual assistant to handle all of the busy work, because to pull 160, 170 cities a month and keep that organized and then also go back and cross-reference that against the Central Appraisal District, that was a full-time job for my virtual assistant. But now all of that data is being curated. That data is coming back to my office. As it's coming back to my office, my in-house assistant, not my virtual assistant, my in-house assistant is now responsible for making sure that my marketing is going out not weekly, not monthly, daily. I had a bulk mail box go to the post office every single day. Consistency, perseverance, these are the types of things that you're going to need to instill inside of your mind as an entrepreneur. Many of us are used to that 9 to 5 where we go to work and someone tells us at 9 a.m. you do this, at 10 p.m. you do this, at whatever. You're going to need to create your own structure, your own accountability, because after all, this is going to be your life that gets changed. I am not standing up here some college-educated somebody from somewhere. I came up from very modest means. I've had many problems in my life, and I decided that I no longer wanted to be that person. I wanted to feel like I had the abundance. I wanted to feel like I had a path in this life to go somewhere, and I took the effort that I needed to make sure that that happened. I want you to do the same thing. Once I had my in-house person doing all of that, really all it was from that point forward was me doing the things in the business that I knew best, and that was contracting, walking properties, and making sure that my rehabs got done. So I think we're coming up on that second 20-minute mark. I hope that helps you break down a little bit of what I had going on there. When we come right back from this next break, what I'm going to do is talk to you about not only how I marketed to these people, but how I was marketing these people was 4 years ago. I'm going to talk to you about how I marketed to them, but also how I think you should be marketing to them in today's market and in today's market cycles right after this short commercial break.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at propelio.com.
All right, people, coming back from break, I took a quick 15, 20 seconds to scan over the comments. I want to say much love. Thank each and every one of y'all that took the time to give me a comment, take the time away from your busy day to give me a little bit of love. I see a lot of y'all saying, hey, email this to X, Y, or Z. As much as I love that, I'm not going to have the time to maintain that. What I will do though is I'll take a Dropbox link that'll have all the files you need. I will post those into the comments after we finish with the show. So make sure you come back after the show. Give me about 45 minutes to an hour to accomplish that for you. Look through the comments, find my comment. It'll be DC Moore 817 for everybody out there on YouTube, and for everybody out there on Facebook, it'll probably come directly from Propelio. In fact, probably either one of them. Look for Propelio and I'll get you that information. So make sure to come back and check that out. So let's move on to the last piece. And this last piece is just as important as the first and second. How do I market to them? I was sending postcards back in the day. That's what I was doing. For other marketing types, I was using letters. But for the water lists, I found that I wasn't hitting a lot of competition. This was essentially a niche list that I didn't have anybody else really attacking me on that with. So I went for a cheaper form of marketing, which was postcards. I was getting postcards out the door for around 40 cents, 38 cents, 40 cents a pop. And the letters were costing me around 90 cents to $1.10 a pop because I had some rather intricate mailers that I was sending out on that side. Postcards worked. And I had a lot of people say, well, how many postcards would you send? On those, I'd only send 3. And now I know that the rule of thumb for marketers is like you need to touch somebody at least 7 times. For the water lead lists, what I found was, let's say someone did abandon that property and they just moved out. Those are the people I'm wanting to find. But I don't have a change of address filed in county yet, so I'm marketing to a vacant house. For those of you that know that you're marketing to a vacant house, a lot of times your mail's not going to get delivered. So if they just moved, I'd hit 3 times, and then I would assume from that point forward that either I missed them or I didn't get them. Now, yes, I would take that mail that was coming back, skip trace it, and try and find the homeowner from there. But I'm going to go ahead and eliminate all of that and go ahead and move forward with what I think that you should be doing in today's market with these lead lists. Okay? Earlier, I said there was 4 reasons why I believe that this water would get shut off. Can anybody tell me what those 4 were? 1, property's been abandoned. 2, couldn't afford to make the payment. 3, busted pipe in the house. All 3 of those, good leads. 4th one, it was just sold on a retail sale. Not a good lead. Not a good lead at all. So the first thing I'm going to do when I get these lead lists back is I'm going to scrub the lists and clean out anything that was listed on the MLS and sold. Now you're going to either need access to the MLS or you're going to need to be able to get your virtual assistant to start searching Zillow. You can see this stuff on Zillow too. You know, I would never trust Zillow for comps, but I can definitely trust Zillow to know if a property's for sale or not for sale. I'd have my virtual assistant go through every single one of these leads being returned, hit Zillow, and then through Zillow, I am now going to know, was it listed? Did it sell? And if those are the cases, I remove it from the list. So I'll take 100 properties and I'll narrow it down to 40. These 40 were not properties that sold retail. I now have a strong list of 40 people that I need to market to. I would no longer send postcards. I would start becoming a lot more direct, because if I send postcards, there's room for error, there's room for mistakes. I would just immediately skip trace that entire list and I just spend my day cold calling. Now, if you're scared of cold calling, get over it. And if you can't get over it, find somebody that will. That's one of the key things that I need to make sure I instill in you for anybody that watches me on a regular basis is you do not have to be, in fact, it's impossible to be good at everything that's required to make this business work. But that's the nice thing about being an entrepreneur, is you recognize this and you are able to utilize other people's skills to allow your business to grow. If you are not good at cold calling, get someone that is good at cold calling to do it for you. Because if you don't, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle, you're going to be timid. And if you're timid, that's fine, but you can't let that stop you. You need to get somebody else in the door to go out there and knock this down for you. You need to be the puppet master, not the puppet. Okay? Get out there and I'd start cold calling these. Now, before we start cold calling these, I need to think about the avatar. And we've used this word several times here lately. It's a new copywriting term that I've gained from somebody else. But essentially your avatar is, I'm going to build the person in my head that I'm marketing to. Who is the person that just had a pipe bust in their house? Who is the person that couldn't afford to pay their water bill? Who is the person that's abandoning a property and leaving it vacant? I want to start brainstorming through all of this and start figuring out, all right, they've abandoned their property, it's now vacant. Why are they abandoning that property? Maybe their job forced them to relocate. Maybe they were a tenant and they skipped town and now I've got a vacant house that belongs to a landlord. What other reasons might be going on for why they are abandoning this house? Maybe there was a decedent. Maybe somebody died in the chain of title and they're winterizing the property. They're turning off the water to the property. Start trying to figure out who these people are so that way when you're on the phone and you start getting hit with objections of, oh, well, you know what? My father just passed away. That was his house. I had to turn the water off because it's getting to be winter. All right. How am I going to overcome that? How am I going to be able to handle this? The better you get at figuring out who that avatar is in your head and putting yourself into that person's shoes, the better you're going to be at being able to have a conversation with them that they can relate to that will allow you to go through and help that person out of a situation. What I can promise you is nobody wants an abandoned property to just be sitting there in the middle of town. You've got copper thieves, you've got squatters, you've got all kinds of problems. Let's say I do shut off the water and I leave it abandoned for the next 6 months. But during those 6 months, what I didn't realize is that a squirrel chewed a hole through some attic vent and they got into my attic. Well, due to that, it's also been a very rainy beginning of the year and all that rain's been in my house, but guess what hasn't been in the house? Me. And since I haven't been in the house, I failed to realize that that small water leak has now turned into a collapsed ceiling in my 3rd bedroom, mold damage 3 foot up the walls throughout the entire house, all of the carpets now ruined, all the wood floorings buckled. Oh yeah, and guess what? Since it's abandoned, I failed to realize that I needed vacant property insurance. All that I have is my homeowner's insurance, which I've been diligently paying, but I failed to realize that my claim has now been denied because I was not at the property to see the small roof leak that could have easily been handled that turned into a $70,000 repair job. These are the things that your landlord should be thinking about. So if I'm on the phone and I've already got that kind of ammo in my head, I can start coming at this person from a point of authority and helping this person with the problem. It's like, hey, I realize that you've left that property abandoned. Have you taken into consideration your insurance requirements? I know that you likely got homeowner's insurance, but are you aware that that homeowner's insurance is not going to work for you? You're going to need to get vacant property insurance. So I can start helping that homeowner, and then through helping that homeowner, I might start exposing their minds to the risks that they're putting themselves into. I'm not trying to do anything other than explain to them vacant properties are bad for you. I shouldn't have to teach somebody that, but I do want to make sure that that person understands the risks that they are putting themselves in, and that if they would just be willing to take a fair cash offer today, I can handle all the process of paperwork, of handling the affidavits of heirship, and I can do everything necessary to transfer that title and put a very healthy sum of money into their back pocket and help them move on down the road. This is what I'm trying to help you out with on the cold calling side. This is what I'm trying to help you out with on the marketing side of this. Go through, scrub the lists, remove any property that was a retail sale. That should leave you with the remaining properties. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to these homeowners and I'm going to start cold calling them. And I'm just going to go down the list and start trying to hit them up. Okay. So one of the things that as I'm getting towards the end of this show that I've realized that I have failed to do for you is give you some of the exact verbiage of what I would request. I'm going to go ahead and pull one of those open for you real quick. Let me get my pop back open up here. Let me see here. I'm just going to go ahead and pop one of these open. Okay, very simple letter. I'd send it to the city secretary, City of Farmers Branch, regarding open records request. I am requesting a list of all residential properties in your city that have had the water shut off anytime between blank and blank. I only need the property address. I do not want any customer information or reasons for shut off. I authorize you to redact confidential information in accordance with section 182.052 of the Utilities Code. If possible, please email to donna@i35homebuyers.com. Okay, let me get a couple key things in this that I want you to realize, and I had to start doing because I realized only after my initial attempts were failures of mine. That keyword that's on the screen right now that says I'm requesting a list of all residential properties. Okay, you may also want commercial properties, and I can understand that, but what I realized is that some of these cities were being cute with me. I would file this request and they would send me a list of every valve in the city that was shut off. Valve literally meaning they went out to test a fire hydrant. Open fire hydrant, close fire hydrant, water shut off. They'd go out and turn off an 8-inch water main in the middle of a city street. Water shut off. Literally, I would get cities that would return back all of that, so I would narrow it down to just residential properties. If you want commercial, great, but I would find is I would also get, you know what, apartment number 213, water turned off. I don't want all those apartments that got turned off. Maybe if the entire apartment complex got turned off, that'd be good news for me. But I wasn't looking for all of the water shutoffs for apartments because those were hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of those every single month that I just did not want to deal with. Okay, that was the first piece. The next piece I was looking at was all probably relative to Texas and Texas only, but I was looking for the last 30 days. I'm going to give you another way to request this same list, but worded differently to give you a different type of person, a different type of motivation. Somebody that's turned off in the last 30 days, abandoned property, water's been shut off, couldn't afford the bill. Busted pipe, couldn't afford the bill. Well, let me try and help you find another type of property. And this other type of property is going to be some solid gold for you. I actually had Dylan Tettenmeyer, I may have messed his last name up, messaged me in the last week or two after I talked about this on another show a couple of weeks ago. All I did was talk about it, and he heard what I was talking about, and he went out and he took action. I believe he's in Vegas, and he sent me a message. He's like, dude, I just closed a $13,000 wholesale. I believe that was $13,000. I closed a $13,000 wholesale off of this lead list that I'm talking about right now. I'm going to request all properties that have had the water shut off for more than 6 months. It's the exact same list. I'm sourcing a water lead list, but I'm sourcing it now in a totally different manner. I am now going to request all properties that have had the water shut off at least 6 months, all residential properties. That is telling me this is mega abandoned. It's like abandoned. It's been abandoned. It's been off 6 months. I will then go through and scrub that list for all properties that are bank owned. I'm not going to start trying to cold call Wells Fargo and being like, hey, will you sell me 123 Main Street? If you do that, great. I don't think you're going to have much success with that. But once I've scrubbed and removed all the banks from this list, guess what I just received? Guess what I just received? I just got a solid list of mega abandoned properties. What I am going to, not promise, but what I'm going to lean towards is that if a property is vacant for more than 6 months, and it is not a bank-owned property, you are likely going to be dealing with the death of that homeowner. That's not a guarantee. Maybe the homeowner's moved into some retirement center. Maybe the homeowner's moved in with some family. Maybe the homeowner has passed away. But if it has gone on 6 months and this has not been resolved, you are likely going to find people that are willing to sell their property. And why has no one marketed to them? Maybe that property did go abandoned, but the family is still making the payments on the house. So it's not going into pre-foreclosure status. Maybe that property was abandoned or the homeowner died, but the family has not filed any probates. How many people have purchased properties from homeowners that are in chain of title, but not directly in title because they have not done any of the curative processes for transferring title to the rightful heirs? Happens all the time. I'm teaching you how to find pre-probates. I'm teaching you how to find pre-foreclosures. I'm teaching you how to find properties at the point in time where they have the highest probability of being willing to sell you the property. No one's lived there in 6 months. If they had lived there in the last 6 months, they'd have the water turned on. You've now got a list in your city of all the properties that you're going to have the highest probability of knocking the deal down on. Now, while you're skip tracing these, you're likely going to be skip tracing dead homeowners. You're going to look up that property, you're going to find out who the homeowner is, and you're going to start skip tracing that homeowner. Well, when you start skip tracing this homeowner, make sure you watch the Larry Higgins video that's available in the Academy. For those that do not know what the Academy is, the Propelio Academy is a full-blown scholarship-based real estate investing platform available to every single one of you. We are not charging for this. It is a scholarship. Propelio wants to see you win, so do not forget to go out there and check out the Propelio Academy. There's a course in there from Larry Higgins. Larry Higgins is the founder of skipgenie.com. He talks through about an hour and a half of how to truly find these people. If I go out and I skip trace this property and I find out that the homeowner is 88 years old and this property is abandoned, can I reasonably assume that that homeowner is either A, in hospice, in the hospital, and, potentially deceased? Okay, well, if they're deceased, I can't cold call them. I'm now going to need to start dropping down and start finding their possible relatives, skip tracing all their relatives, and just start working down that chain until I finally get on the phone with a cousin, a niece, a nephew. And I say, hey, are you familiar with Jane Smith? Jane Smith has recently passed away, and she has real estate that you may be in the chain of title of. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but if you'd be willing to sit down and spend a few moments with me to discuss what this looks like, I would gladly sit down and explain to you what's going on here, and I could help you move this ball forward. That's not the exact script I would use, but I'm trying to open your eyes to what you're going to hit. Now, all the rest of this documentation that I have here, I'm going to go ahead and release to y'all after this show. I'm going to drop it in the comments on both YouTube and Facebook. I've got about 4 more minutes left here. If there are any key questions that are pertinent to this conversation to further it along, I'll go ahead and take those. If not, please, I have given you the last hour of my life and a year's plus of my experience in this last hour. Give us some likes. Tell your friends about us. Tell your friends that we're out here trying to help you. Go out there and share it with your friends. Give us, at the very least, you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. I've got a bunch of y'all over there on YouTube watching right now. Give me a thumbs up if nothing else. Go over there to Facebook. Follow me on Facebook. Daniel Chad Moore on Facebook, DC Moore 817 on YouTube. Go out there, follow me. Much love. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to catch a couple of quick questions. Make sure I get them hearts across the screen, and thank you. We're going to go to one quick break, and I'll come back for some Q&A for everybody that's got some questions on that. Remember, during that break, what are you going to do? You're going to give me some thumbs up. You're going to go out there, you're going to check out Propelio.com, see what we're all about. Go out there and check out these scholarship-based education platforms that we've got for you. Much love. See you after the break.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
All right, thank you for everybody that stuck around for after this break. I'm going to take some time and get some Q&A in. I once again want to tell my wife, my lovely daughter Tyla and Zyla, both of y'all, Daddy loves you. Can't wait to get home and see y'all again. But I'm going to jump in here, catch a couple of questions that I see if I can get an answer for you and see what I can do for you. All right, so I got a question here from Jeremiah Mauricio. I have received water leads, but some areas don't send all the addresses because they redact properties because they said the address is private property. How do I inform them that addresses are public information? What I'm not going to be able to do for y'all is give you straight up legal advice. On something like that where I have a city that is trying to deny me, I am going to need to get some feedback from an attorney that can give me not only an opinion, but the law to back that opinion. All I can do right now is tell you my opinion is they need to give it to you. Ouch, just got a spasm in my back. My opinion is yes, they are going to need to give this to you, but I'm not going to be able to cite any laws to help you out with that. So you're going to need to find out some good legal advice for that. Aaron Whitaker, I know we were talking about making an open records request for water shutoff. Can I make a request for vacant lots that have code violations? I would lean towards probably, yes. I am going to lean towards most probably, that is yes. From my experience with the Texas Public Information Act, the cities are required to give you any information that they have that is not deemed confidential and that is already in existence. I can't make the city curate and create a new information. Like I can't say go out and drive all around town and find all the vacant properties that have code violations. But if they already have all the code violations, which I know they do, and then what they may come back and say, I can't cross-reference them for lots for you, that might be something you'd have to hire a VA do, but you could definitely go in there and say, give me all the code violations. Excuse me if I say your name wrong, but I'm gonna go for Deo. I'll just say, how about running the list through Melissa Data or a data appending site to get a deed transfer date or deed sale date to figure out if it was recently sold? That is just as possible, but Zillow for me worked. So any way that you can find out to figure out if the property's been sold, yes, I would go for that. Okay, Michael Goodman, thank you for sharing. You're welcome, Michael. I've been looking into water leads and this provide clear direction. Creating system will be key. Golden nuggets. Well, that's why we're doing this, man. I want to see y'all succeed. This is a good niche list. You can start stacking data on top of this to make it even better. Kristen Gerst, the lovely Kristen Gerst, the host of our Diva show. Excuse me. Kristen Gerst is awesome, though. There are people advertising on Facebook that they will cold call for you. Oh, that's cool. I never heard that. They have services that are not that expensive. Do not be afraid of paying. One deal and you make. Boom. I love that advice, Kristen. Thank you for tuning in, giving us that lovely knowledge. Antonio Hernandez. What happens when they deny you the requests? You just got to figure that one out, man. I don't know what city you're in, what state you're in. You're going to have to learn the laws. You're going to have to learn to persevere. You're going to have to get an attorney involved. That's the biggest thing I'm going to have to tell you. If it's in Texas, I'm going to lean towards 99% certainty. They have to give it to you. I've pulled it from almost 200 separate cities now. I have taught this to people in Houston. I've taught this to people in San Antonio. And I know for a fact that they're killing it down there. So if I can do it in the DFW Metroplex and they can do it in the Houston, San Antonio Metroplex, I have very, very big problems imagining that it's not possible at the very least in Texas. Got another one coming in here from Drunk on Soul. Will that be included in the Dropbox? I'm not sure what the will part is, but everything that I've shown you today will be included in what I drop here on the Dropbox today. Give me some thumbs up, give me some love. Make sure that y'all are showing some of that feedback. I get really nervous up here that I'm not providing the value that I want to, and that love that y'all are sending this way definitely helps me out.
I think what better system would be to build a landing page like MailChimp.
Okay.
Just an auto email. So just be on the lookout for a link.
All right, so for everybody that's watching right now, I said I'd drop that Dropbox out there. We'll drop a MailChimp landing page out there or something like that. Just give us your email and we'll email it out for you.
Yeah, that way it could be an auto campaign a year and a half from now.
Boom. All right, what else we got? On the average, how many properties do you get per city? I'm going to say that varies greatly on the size of the municipality. In Dallas, I'd get around 600 to 700 a month. Dallas, though, is a population of just Dallas, the city itself, not the metropolitan area, around 3 million people. DFW as a whole is around 7 million people, I believe. But about 700 people was what I was getting out of Dallas. Now, I'd go into some cities like, because I've been picking on Lucas all day, I'd go into a city like Lucas that nobody's seen or heard of, and they'd come back and say there's been no water shutoffs. And I might only get 10 shutoffs from them in a year because there's only 14 houses and nobody's left them. So it really is going to depend on your municipality. Matt Smith, what was the other place you submit to? You said city attorney and city secretary. Travion, could you toss me a water when you get a chance? Thank you, sir. Jermaine Wilson, did the Academy relaunch? It's going to relaunch on Wednesday. I was extremely disappointed with the first launch of the Academy, and I'm very, very, very happy to see this new launch come out on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. We have right around 30 courses available. We are very excited to announce Think Multifamily, one of the sponsors of Propelio TV, as well as one of our good friends, has agreed to teach in full detail everything you need to know about multifamily investing, all the way from the thought process to the closing due diligence management of it. So if you've ever thought about multifamily investing, check out Think Multifamily and expect a new course from them within the next month. It's going to be fire for the Academy to have that level of knowledge available. Thank you, Sir Travion. All right, we'll see what we got next. All right, I got one or two more questions coming in. While those questions are coming in, I'm going to take a moment to say thank each and every one of you for giving me the time, for trusting me with your time. I hope that I've provided the value that you were looking for. I'm going to ask a favor of you. Just remember what Propelio is. Propelio.com is a software system for real estate investors to help automate and scale your business. We're helping you buy more houses. The Propelio Academy is a scholarship-based education system to teach and help every single one of y'all in your investing business. If you're not understanding some of these creative strategies, if you're not even understanding some of the basic marketing principles, we are there to teach you in the Academy, and at what cost? It's a scholarship, man. I want to see you win. My background, my life, the people around me, I want to see you win. Dio again, can a city charge as much as $3,100 for the request? Is there a reasonable fee they are allowed to charge? I have a city asking me to pay $3,100. Great question. Okay, I can only speak on Texas. Texas law states that a city may charge a reasonable fee for this information. The problem with that is reasonable is a bit subjective. You know, it doesn't clearly state what they are or are not allowed to charge you. What I can say is that 90+% of the cities that I approached with this didn't charge me anything. So I use that as a basis for my reasonable. So if the Attorney General, like if I got into it with Hearst, so the city of Hearst was trying to charge me $1,100 for a list. Now, I have data across 100+ other cities that aren't charging me anything to say that a reasonable charge is not $1,100. But I had to enforce that. The next question is going to be on that $3,100 is I would talk to the city and say, why is that? Is this a manual process? Is this a blank, blank, blank? Or could I go ahead and fork over, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 to hire a programmer to automate this program for you? Because somebody else did that for us in Grand Prairie. Here in Texas, we have a city of Grand Prairie. Somebody else was pulling water requests from the city before I got to that one. And they literally had this other person paid the money to build the software to pull the leads for them. So up to you. I'm just throwing out some information from what I've seen in the past. Gordon Cuff. What has your response rate been when mailing to water lists? I don't have any of the data in front of me. I can't give you all the statistics, but what I can do is tell you how I was doing the marketing. I was using, what was the name of that company at the time? Call Ring Central. Ring Central is who I was using, and I could get multiple phone lines from Ring Central. I had a phone line for my pre-foreclosures, I had a phone line for my probates, I had a phone line for my bandit signs, and I had a phone line for my water lists. The reason that was because I wanted to see what rate of return of callbacks I was getting, because KPIs mean more to you as a marketer than anything else could possibly be. How much am I sending out? How many calls am I getting? Out of calls, how many appointments? Out of appointments, how many contracts? Out of contracts, how many closes? You need to be studying this. This is part of your business. But what I would say is, of the 4 phone numbers I had, the water lead list was getting the highest volume of calls. It was getting the highest volume of appointments, the highest volume of contracts, and the highest volume of closes. In 2016-ish, I did like 64, 67 properties. About half of them came from my water lead lists. Ephraim Duranville. How long does it take to convert a lead into dollars? Use water leads. How long does it take to convert a lead into dollars? I have no direct answers for you on that. That's going to, I guess, depend upon multiple different factors of which I have no control over. But what I would say is just remain diligent, just continually persevere, push forward. And of all the lead lists that I could possibly talk of right now on the top of my head, outside of some creatively stacked lists and some other creative resources that I'm not just dropping on the air right now today, this is one of the best lead lists I could possibly think of right now. Karen Christian. My city all has private companies providing water. Do they also fall under the disclosure laws versus just the city water? Karen, if this is private water companies, then you may be out of luck. This is only public information, not private information. Do you have any utility companies or do you have any other services in the city that are public that you might be able to get information on? I have never done this. I am just thinking this through in my head. Is there a way that you could possibly figure out a list of all people that have just recently filed for unemployment? Is that possible? I don't know. I'm just getting outside of the box. So for anybody that's watching this right now and you want to take the time to discover and learn, maybe you can file and say, show me a list of all people that recently filed for unemployment. That means I just found somebody right at the point in time they lost their job. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you for everybody that's watching. If I missed your question, I'll try and answer it afterwards. I want to say over, under, or through. Don't let anything stop you. It's extremely important. I know it's discouraging at times. Many of y'all that are watching this right now are new into this business. Y'all are hungry. Y'all are motivated to get this done. But you know, a month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by, and you haven't nailed your first deal yet. Give yourself a year at the very least to figure this out, because you're going to be educating yourself, implementing, failing, learning from those failures, re-educating yourself, and just create a cycle out of that. And don't give up. This does have the power to change your life, the life of your family. It has done more for me than my life than I could have ever imagined. I was at 19 years old, I was a high school dropout looking at life in prison. It is real estate that changed my life. And I'm trying to change the life of others that have been in a similar situation, that understand struggle, that understand what it takes to survive, not only in this world, but on the streets. I want y'all to learn everything that provides you the value and the knowledge to persevere in this world. For those that are still interested and still watching, don't forget to check out Propelio.com. We have MLS comps, we have lead lists, we have Driving for Dollars app in beta being released right now. We have, websites. If you need lead generating websites, I'm going to do a deal for everybody watching right now. I'm going to give everybody that's watching right now a free lead generating website. If you go to Propelio.com right now and say, hey, give me a free lead generating website, you got to go to support. Go to support and say, give me a free lead generating website, and I'll give it to you for the next 90 days for free. That is 3 months of a website for your business. You go out there and say, ibuyhouses.com, you buy that domain, you've got that there. I'll give it to you for free for the next 90 days just for watching the show. Much love to everybody out there. I want to say thank you. I don't really have much else to say other than keep the comments coming. We watch the replays. We do answer the questions as we can. I think there's nothing else to say. Keep winning.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Life and Air.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.